Beyond just laying the groundwork for a good meeting, an agenda is actually a tool for controlling the conversation once you're actually in the meeting. So, when you're in a meeting, oftentimes people will go in strange directions that aren't exactly productive. And sometimes you'll go down technical rabbit holes that you really don't need to be discussing there because it's not going to be pushing the ball forward in any meaningful way. So, what you can do in those situations is use what I call a summary and refer back to the agenda. And what you do in there is if somebody starts talking about, say their dog and how great it is and how much they like taking their dog on hiking trails, that's great. That's a good conversation, but you're here to talk about business. So how do you control that conversation and get it back to where it needs to go without coming off as rude? So that's where that idea of summary and referring back to the agenda comes in. All you'd have to do is summarize what you heard from them to let them know they were heard, you paid attention, and you listen to what they actually had to say. And then you can refer back to the agenda as a way of nicely saying, let's get down to brass tacks again. So it sounded a little something like this. So, hey, Dean, really interesting to hear about your floppy dogs. My dogs also have really floppy ears. They're goofy just like yours. They're a ton of fun. I'm really glad we have them in our lives. And something I was curious about those, we were talking in our second agenda item about helping you guys move forward and you needing some training to get that done. What would that training look like in your perspective? And what would you like to actually see accomplished in this next year? So by giving a little summary of what I said and paying attention to it, regardless of how significant I think it is to the conversation, it lets them know I'm not just blowing you off. I actually heard what you said and I paid attention. And then in the second half, by referring back to the agenda, that gives you control of where the conversation is going next and ensures you're actually talking about things that will move the ball forward. If you don't have an established agenda at the beginning of the meeting, you don't have access to this technique, and that can create some very awkward situations as you're trying to corral somebody and control the conversation and push it towards productive end. So with that in mind, always make sure you have a strong agenda set up that's going to be useful for the client you're meeting with. And if the conversation gets off the rails, use a simple summary and refer back to an agenda item to get that meeting back on track.